The Green Bay Packers had a solid week, which included taking the first place spot in the NFC. We'll recap the win over the Lions, look ahead at the game against the Panthers, and as always, hear feedback from you, dear listeners. All next on your Packers Fan Podcast.
Happy holidays to you and yours, and thank you for spending some time with us to talk Packers. Wayne Henderson from MediaVoiceovers.com. And how about them NFC North champion Green Bay Packers? Can you say playoffs?
Can I get a go, Pack, go?
Go, Pack, go!
I'm Scott Clark from The Gaming Outsider. This is episode 219 of the Packers Fan Podcast, the show by and for fans of your 13-time NFL champion Green Bay Packers. And wouldn't it be nice to say 14 instead of 13 this time next year? Just saying. This week on the show, we did what did we love and what did we not from our win over the Lions. Stay tuned. And we'll be sharing more of your voicemails, emails, and other feedback.
And you know what rhymes with go, Pack, go?
What's that?
Ho, ho, ho. Anyway, later in this episode, we're going to get ready for next SATURDAY Night game. Well played, Scott. Packers are going to be hosting the Carolina Panthers at Lambeau Field. We'll also have Scott's keys to a Packers victory and more football goodness. Let's dig into that game, fresh in our mind, the huge win over the Lions. And although we didn't score as much in the first half as I had hoped, those touchdown catches by Davante Adams and Marquez Valdes-Scantling were beautiful.
Yeah, MVS was certainly channeling his inner Davante Adams, it seemed like, on a couple of his catches. He is definitely on the road to recovery in terms of gaining some respect back from the fans because he had some drops in the previous weeks, and he more than made up for it this week, which was very nice to see.
Absolutely. In fact, later on in the listener feedback section, we got a lot of Marquez information for you.
There you go. Also, another tremendous thing to see in the first half, back-to-back sacks on Matthew Stafford. Dean Lowry had his timely sack, and then Rashawn Gary got a nice sack on the very next play. We may have some complaints about the defense later on, but that defensive line sure put in their time this week. Back-to-back always feels awesome. Also, in the third quarter, you just had to love watching Aaron Rodgers run it in for a touchdown. Not only is he throwing touchdown passes, he's running them in for 6 yards. Just kind of made it look easy. Waltzed right in there. And fun fact, Wayne, this score set Green Bay's record for rushing touchdowns.
Nice.
So he's officially had 30 rushing touchdowns in his career. This record was previously set by Tobin Rote back in 1956, who had 29 rushing touchdowns. So Aaron Rodgers is just breaking records left and right all over the place, and I'm all for it.
Yeah, if there's a category that Aaron has a record in reach, he's going for it. He is totally going for it, and we love to watch it. And good old Tunyon, the fun one, coming in clutch with a fourth quarter TD, and it was great to see him getting into the action a lot more. Bobby T doing a solid effort. In fact, that entire drive was a pretty good, solid effort.
It really was, and I know that you love I think you just like to say Tunyon is really what it comes down to, but we also got to give credit where credit's due because Davante Adams' catch did actually make the franchise record for most consecutive games with a receiving touchdown catch. He now has 8 consecutive games, and no other Packer has ever done that in its entire history, so kudos to Adams. Yeah,
it's funny that even just a year ago, there were some people who said, you know, Davante Adams, he's all right, but I wouldn't put him in the top 10. I forget that he's even our wide receiver. I'm like, who are you people?
He's right up there in the top 3, legitimately.
Number 1. If there's a ball that has to be caught, I think he can make it happen. And
I'm with you.
Mason Crosby picking the perfect time to kick one of the longest field goals of his entire career.
Yeah, he actually tied his own personal record. Which is awesome to see, and what a time to do it. I mean, it wasn't a game-winning field goal, but it was a game-sealing field goal for us, and man, it was awesome.
Yeah, and then on the very next play, we had to kick off to the Lions. And of course, special teams let the guy run almost all the way down the field. Thankfully, Mason Crosby knows how to be the last man standing and put a stop to the run, unlike J.K. Scott a couple weeks ago.
Well, he actually tackled him instead of like giving him a little love tap. So
I don't even know if J.K. Scott made contact, but I'm sure they are working on it in case it has to come into play this week.
Right. So lots of good things happening for the Packers, but we had some lowlights as well. The defense, obviously. Not only a lot of poor defense, but especially in the first half, it was really atrocious. But also the disgusting amount of defensive penalties in the fourth quarter when we were trying to salt the game away. That was really depressing to see. Just kept giving the Lions opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to get back in this. I was just sitting there watching going, guys, are you really going to let this happen?
Right. I was pulling my hair out, and I thought Coach LaFleur was going to go off on Pettin and the defensive players because every play, or at least every other play, another flag, another flag, another flag. Although there were some Lions fans after the game online, of course, claiming that the refs basically gave us the victory. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, because one or two iffy calls, if they would have gone the other way, the Lions would be the NFC champions today, right? Right.
They did get a bad call. There's one that should have been...
Not enough evidence. Not enough evidence.
It was a catch, man. It was a catch.
Not enough evidence to overturn it. And then late in the game, Aaron Rodgers, he got put down hard with about 4 minutes to go. I'm hoping that he's 100%. He seemed okay in the post-game press conference. And I know I sound like a broken record, but I think that fake grass, that AstroTurf modern version, I think it made the landing a little bit harder. Aaron was a little iffy when he got up after that, but, we won the game. He was okay afterwards. In fact, Sir Troy wonders why no flag was thrown because the Lion definitely put his full weight into AR-12 when he sacked him.
Well, if it had been Tom Brady, there would have been a flag, right?
Oh, there would have been a flag before the ball was hiked. Just a preemptive strike.
Mm-hmm. That's about it, though. I mean, it was a little iffy here and there, but we came out with a W. So very, very happy. As we mentioned earlier, we've got the NFC North all locked in. We are officially going to the playoffs, which is a very cool feeling. We also do have just one quick Packers news point to mention. Since we are the NFC North Division champs, you can actually purchase gear now already. How are you feeling about the logo that they've got on there? I know that's a tough word for you to say.
Logo. I'm not a fan. In fact, it looks a lot like something they used like 10 years ago with the kind of the yellow behind it. It's not my style of hat. I know, if you have a collection of division champion hats, you do need to add this one to your collection. Some of the other items I thought were a little more interesting, but I'm kind of holding out my money for those Super Bowl champion shirts and hats and anything they want to sell me.
Yeah, I've still got my one from 97. Remember, it was in New Orleans, and it had like the jazz musicians and stuff on it. That was that one holds a special place in my heart. I will say that. Wayne, how about some listener feedback? I know we got quite a bit this week. I'm eager to hear it. What do you have for us? I know people can call in at 920-3PACK-GO or anywhere in the world. Send your voice message to feedback@PackersFanPodcast.com. Just be sure to get it to us every Sunday by midnight so that we can get it in time for the show. What do you got, Wayne?
Okay, Aaron just ran his own touchdown, and the man that can do it all. And like I said before, those are the best touchdowns ever to see. Aaron Rodgers touchdowns are awesome. And the fact that drive got prolonged, 4, 3, 4, 5, 6 minutes because of that really late defensive holding call was random. And I'm sure Detroit fans are probably pissed, and I would probably be too if I were them. But I still don't really understand why that was called or why it was called late. But we capitalized, and it paid off, and it ended with an Aaron Rodgers touchdown at 37. He has speed. Hell yeah, he has speed. Go back, go!
Hey, it's Megan again. I can't remember if I commented on MVS, but he needs to be commented on because he came out with a stellar performance. I think he had 80-something yards and 60, 80, 68 catches. I think he was 100% for catches. Either way, yeah, he killed it, and he was where he needed to be when he needed to be there, and especially after all the hate he got from the botched fumble. I mean, it was really inspirational, really, really impressive to see him come in strong and continue to give it his all, despite the haters, despite people who think that he might not deserve a spot on the squad. Well, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that he does, or at least deserves, to be in the conversation. And, yeah, that's all I got to say. Shout out MVS, Marquez, you're the bomb. We love you. Go, Pack, go. One not done. Let's go.
You got it, Megan. Bringing the energy, bringing the hype. I love it. One not done. And yes, excellent points about AR-12 running in his own touchdown and giving up some serious props to MVS, killing it in this game. And earlier this season, he was, we were all wondering about him, but man, he is on fire these days.
Agreed. I love it. I'm glad he's back.
Go, Park, go! Go, Park, go! Hey, guys. Andre in L.A. First of all, I want to say what a game. Leave it up to Detroit to make us earn it. Rodgers was spectacular. Devontae Adams, man, he is making everyone that said for the past couple weeks that we throw him the ball too much eat those words, because he looks unstoppable. The defense, I'm going to be honest, the numbers don't show it, but they did make Detroit earn it. They did a good job tackling. They gave up some runs that, late touchdown, again, killing me in Fantasy League. But nonetheless, still love the win. They gave us 4 quarters, which I am thankful for. They did play hard the entire game. Just a great coaching job, too, by LaFleur. I really like the offensive schemes that I was seeing in the first half. Second half, it felt like they got a little stagnant. But overall, just a great team win. Andre in L.A., love you guys. Grin and go till I'm dead and cold. And go, Park, go! Sorry, a little tired.
How many was that? 3? What was the challenge? I don't remember how many he was supposed to get.
Well, I know that listener Steven was wondering if Andre could bring 10 this week, but, like you said, he's a little tired, and, hey, he brought it. He really did. Thank you, Andre.
Absolutely. Andre, so good to hear from you. Rodgers, spectacular. Devontae, unstoppable. Defense did make some good tackles. We missed a couple as well, though. He said that he thought that they played hard the entire game. I kind of felt like the first quarter, it didn't feel like the energy was there. I really would like to see the Packers just play hard all 4 quarters. Just one game.
Well, I totally agree. We need to see that. But that is a couple games in a row where we were lackluster, I should say, in the first quarter, the first couple of drives. And at least this week it wasn't as bad as last week's first set of downs. But, something needs to wake them up right at the beginning. I think that, now that we've clinched the title and we know that this is real, they've got the hats, they've got the shirts, they know the playoffs are coming. Play hard the entire game.
I mean, if you think about it, we control our own destiny. If we just win out the rest of the season, we take the NFC by storm. So we just got to get past the Panthers. We got to get past who's left. I know the Bears are in
Titans.
there and the Titans. It's not going to be super easy, but hey, we just keep winning, especially with New Orleans are playing the Chiefs next week. So there's a chance that we could kind of extend that margin a little bit. So things are looking bright, and I'm hoping that the team really kind of latches onto that and just keeps going.
Well, and I'll take your statement about winning every game and controlling the NFC one step further. If we just win all the rest of our games this year, we will be hoisting the Lombardi Trophy.
Yeah.
I mean, look at it. Win a couple of games in the playoffs, win the Super Bowl, easy peasy, lemon squeezy, as Sir Troy would say.
I love how all you got to do is just win the rest of the games. I mean, you could say that from week 1. All you got to do is win the rest of the games this season, and we're fine.
I would never be so bold as to say that.
Yes, you would.
But really, there's only going to be like 6, maybe 7 more games left.
Yeah.
We could do that.
Hey, Scott and Wayne, it's Mark from New Lisbon. And yes, Scott, New Lisbon is in Wisconsin. Wow, what a great night. Oh, my gosh. The Eagles beat the Saints. That's stunning. And the Packers hang on. So we are division champs and the number 1 seed all in the same night. So great night for the Packers. I actually took notes this week because I thought last week I was kind of all over the place. So I want to start with Jair Alexander. He's just a special player. I was reading on Pro Football Weekly that he's ranked the number 1 cornerback in the NFL. He's a shutdown corner. His stats
he doesn't have a lot of picks. That's because, no one throws to his side of the field. So he's starting to remind me, Jair Alexander, of like a Richard Sherman or a Darrelle Revis. And you could almost call him like Jair Island because nobody throws to him. So I think he's really underappreciated, and a big shout out to Jair. He always takes the number one receiver for the other team and does a great job. So when people complain about our defense all the time, there's definitely some positives on our defense. Short yardage today was better. A couple of 2nd and 2s. We gave it to Jamal Williams. We had converted on a 3rd and 1. So that's been a scary topic for Packer fans. Speaking of underappreciated, if you watch the Vikings game, Dan Bailey missed 3 field goals at least and an extra point. And we have Mason Crosby, who kicked a 58-yarder, and that was critical in the game, essential. And if you think about it, we always talk about Rodgers and Favre the last 25 years. But the kicking game is kind of the same. We had Ryan Longwell for a dozen years, and now we've had Mason Crosby for a dozen years. So it's kind of a similar situation with the quarterbacks and the kickers that we've just been so solid in both of those departments. So a shout out to Mason Crosby. And then Devontae Adams today set a Packer record for a touchdown in 8 straight games. So I just think the Packers are playing well, and they're finishing the year strong. They've got the Panthers, the Titans, and the Bears, I believe. So they could run the table and go 13-3 2 years in a row, and that would just be fantastic. So it's all good tonight. When you wake up on Monday morning, we're going to be the number 1 seed in the NFC. That is great. And thanks for the podcast, Wayne and Scott. You guys are awesome. Mark from New Lisbon signing out. Go Pack, go. Talk to you next week.
Mark, thank you so very much for calling in. Thank you for the kind words. Thanks for the reminder for Scott that New Lisbon is in Wisconsin. We just got to keep him on track sometimes. And yeah, it was a great night for Packers fans. Not only the Packers winning that game, but the Eagles beating the Saints. It was like, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. This is falling into place perfectly. Although,
yeah, I've never been more happy to be wrong. I think I infamously said on Facebook that the Eagles don't stand a chance against the Saints, and
that's exactly what you said on Facebook.
Yeah.
Well, maybe if that's what it takes, you got to throw it out there to be wrong. But great reminders from Mark about Jair Alexander. We don't mention his name much, and it might be because opposing quarterbacks are not throwing his direction.
Yeah, that's a good point. He's consistently getting his name said on TV as far as breaking up that pass, but we don't hear about him in post-game interviews or not getting a lot of stats or information on ESPN about him. But I also wanted to mention what Mark said about our kicking, which is something that we've kind of taken for granted because we've had solid kickers for so long. He mentioned Crosby and Longwell. Don't forget Chris Jackie, man. I go way back to Chris Jackie days, and he was a solid kicker too. So I love that the quarterback and kicking have been just solid for 25 years, if not longer.
It's just amazing when you think about it. And like he pointed out, that Vikings game yesterday with 3 missed field goals, and one of them was barely even still in the stadium. It went off so far.
Mm-hmm.
Go, Pack, go! Go, Pack, go! Go, Pack, go! Hey, this is Dan from Indianapolis. This is my first time calling into the podcast, and just found your podcast recently. Interacted with some of you guys last night on the live feed, and it was such a fun time. Anyways, I have to say that was a pretty fun game to watch. It was a little closer than I wanted it to be, but it's okay. It's a win against a division rival, and we are NFC North champions once again. But as I want to say, I think it was Vince Lombardi that said it, we don't celebrate divisional championships, but we're still going to have fun with it. Anyways, thanks to the Eagles beating the Saints, we are now the number 1 seed and have a clear and cut route to be the number 1 seed overall and have that ever important first round playoff bye. Usually that scares me. We don't always play well off of a bye, but to have the playoffs go through Lambeau, that has never happened since Rodgers has been under the center. How exciting is that? To think that the playoffs could actually go through our house at Lambeau Field in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Well, I think it's Ashwaubenon, but yeah, we're picking at hairs now. Anyways, Devontae Adams had another amazing game with another touchdown. The player I was most impressed with was MVS. That kid showed up. I think he was targeted 7 times, and he caught every single target that he was thrown to, especially that touchdown. Holy smokes. Last week, he dropped that one that was right in his breadbasket, and now it seems like he likes to only catch the ones that are contested. But I digress. He's really reminding me of a young Devontae Adams, because Adams also, early on in his career, he also had a problem with the dropsies. But he was a 5th-round pick. That is MVS. MVS was a 5th-round pick out of North Carolina State, I believe. And he's really showing up these last few games. He's had some key drops, and that fumble a couple weeks ago in Indianapolis. I think it was Indianapolis when he had that fumble that pretty much sealed the game for the Colts. But that's all water under the bridge. That's in the past. We can't change it. All I know is we are NFC North champions once again. Enjoy the show. Keep doing what you're doing, guys. And I will talk to you guys later. Go Packers!
Hey there, Dave. Always love to hear from a new listener. Glad you found the show. Glad you enjoyed the Facebook community in terms of keeping up with the game throughout the afternoon. It is always a lot of fun. And we had quite a few comments over this. I think there's like 170, 180 comments just going back and forth throughout the game. That was great. I do love the idea about the road to the Super Bowl going through Lambeau. That feels awesome. The possibility is there, and I am along for the ride and hope for that magic number 14, Wayne. I know you're all about it as well.
Oh, you can count on it. I am very accustomed to saying your 13-time NFL champion Green Bay Packers, but I'm pretty sure I could get the hang of your 14-time NFL champion Green Bay Packers. And it's going to be bittersweet if fans can't be at Lambeau for the NFC Championship game, if it does in fact end up being there. But either way, like Aaron Rodgers alluded to in his post-game press conference, the weather and everything else about it will definitely give the Packers a little bit of an edge.
Absolutely. And MVS and Devontae, both 5th-round picks, was an interesting point, too. It's the way the draft goes, though, right? Every year, it feels like the first-round draft picks are, you never hear about them. You always hear about the ones a little bit further down the line, just because that's the way it works. But I am really glad we got both of them whenever we got them.
Hey, Wayne, this is Rick from Wisconsin calling, and while I did have a little bit of Go Pack go in me while I watched Green Bay play Detroit, that was an interesting game. At the beginning, they did not look that good, but then, they were leading okay, then they looked like they let them back in, and then they pulled it off in the end. So, still looking very good. The Packers look very good to get that number 1 seed and get that important bye on their trip to the Super Bowl potentially. But I have to warn you this week, don't look past Carolina. I know Sir Troy likes to insult my Panthers every time he talks about them. And I know they're not impressive this year as far as their record or how they've been playing. But there is some important stats because I listen to some Carolina podcasts, and they've been on a streak for the last 3 years of not being able to win any games if they're behind at halftime. So that could be a key thing in this game, is if the Packers are ahead at halftime, it would be in the bag, or else they'd be breaking a 3-year losing streak. But Carolina has been close in almost every game they've played. Most of them have been 1-score differences in their losses. And sometimes teams play up, so Green Bay can't get complacent about clinching the division and don't look past them to the teams that are coming up after them. Looking forward to seeing the game Saturday night, where I will not be saying Go Pack Go, because That's my favorite team, but I always got to be careful how I celebrate because my wife is always in the room. So we'll see what happens. Maybe I'll give you a call next week, and maybe I won't want to. Thanks.
Great way to finish there, Rick. So good to hear from you at 9203-PACK-GO. Rick's been a listener forever. He's a Panthers fan, but he kind of likes the Packers because his wife is a Packers fan. And he did point out, the Packers did take a little while to get warmed up during the game, but overall looked pretty good. But issued us a warning, Scott. Don't look past the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, we're going to get to my keys to victory later, Wayne, but it was really difficult for me not to just add, don't be overconfident again. I didn't. But so I'm glad that Rick said it here because I think it was Jacob in our community who said that the Panthers are pretty scrappy. And he made a good point that they've lost several games, but they've lost them by a very short margin. And we lost to the Vikings, guys. I mean, anything can happen. And we really have to be on our toes this week and cannot let – I think we're favored by like 8.5, which seems like a lot.
Points?
8.5 points, yes. We're favored by 8.5 points. 8.5 quarters? What did you – 8.5 minutes?
$8.50? I don't know.
So yeah, I'm a little more nervous about this game than most, and I really hope that our team is as well and kind of plays. I like what he said about how in the past 3 years the Panthers, they didn't win a game where they were losing at half. So let's make that a key to victory. Strike hard, strike fast, no mercy. Those first 2 quarters, and hope that history repeats itself.
Yeah, be up by 45 points at halftime. Just. So we don't have to get out the heart attack medication every single week.
Exactly.
Oh, my goodness. And just for fun, our weekly poll that we post in the Facebook group at PackersCommunity.com, as well as on Twitter at PackersFanPod. Just curious, Packers fans, which team do you think the Packers will host first in the playoffs? And of course, there's still 3 weeks to go, so things can jockey around a bit, but we are in the playoffs. Which team do you think the Packers will host first? And overall, most people, 35% in fact, said the Buccaneers.
Mm-hmm.
And 23% said the Washington football team. 17% thinks we're going to play the Saints first. 12% said the Hawks. 11% said the Rams. And 2% said the Cardinals. What do you think? Have you looked at the brackets and how things might work out if we are the number 1 or if we fall down to the number 2 or whatever?
I mean, anything could happen at this point. It's really a crapshoot in terms of what's going to happen after 3 weeks of the regular season left. But I could totally see us doing a rematch against the Saints, which I can't decide if I like or not because they're going to be out for blood after we beat them earlier in the season. But they're also without Drew Brees, at least for the time being. So that could be a chance for us to get the edge on whenever we do play that first round of the playoffs, whether that be the first week or the second week. And either way, I'm looking forward to it. What do you think?
Like you said, it's really hard to say. But like most of the voters, I just have a feeling it's going to be the Buccaneers coming to Lambeau Field or the Bubble Stadium, whatever they come up with.
I think that's what I wish is the Buccaneers because for the same reason I said the Saints, they're going to be out for blood. We're going to be out for blood because they beat us and they beat us pretty handily. And we would like to get that game back if at all possible, and that would be the best way to do it.
And, of course, that first meeting was in Tampa Bay. This next meeting would not be in Tampa Bay.
Exactly. On that, actual real grass, not turf, so that'll make you happy, too.
Very happy indeed.
Not to mention the weather. The weather's in our favor. We had some comments on this poll as well. Daniel added to his guess of the Bucs saying, it would be great for redemption from the beatdown earlier this year we had. I can't stand Brady either. He's a pretender. Ooh, harsh words. Peter also said, I don't like our chances postseason, if I'm honest. Not saying we can't win it, but any game we play will probably be a shootout. I actually kind of agree with Peter. I think this playoff season, at least for the Packers, is going to be some good, fun football. And I'm all for it, but I really do want the Packers to win.
Me too, by the way. Go Pack Go, Scott.
Go Pack Go.
Sir Troy wanted it noted. With 3 weeks left to go in the season, he sent his final projections for the 2020 NFL playoff seedings. We'll just blitz through the AFC real quick. He says the number 1 seed will end up, in the end, still being Kansas City. And then wild card weekend, he has the Raiders at Buffalo, the Colts at Pittsburgh, and the Browns at Titans. And in the NFC, where it really affects us, he has the Green Bay Packers as the number 1 seed. And then Troy has the Vikings making it in and heading to New Orleans. The Seahawks playing their division rival Rams in L.A., and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going to New York to play the Giants. So he sees some changing of the guard in that very tough NFC East division.
Interesting that he has both the Packers and the Saints winning out the rest of the season with 13-3. That will make for a very interesting postseason. Yeah. Again, pure speculation at this point, right?
But it's noted on the podcast.
Yes, absolutely. Let's move on to emails. First one says, Wayne and Scott, do I need to tell you who this is from Palace Park, Illinois, where the hometown Chicago Bears still, well, you know. It wasn't pretty or easy, but the Packers came up with a W in Detroit against the Lions. And like Wayne Larrivee was asking on the radio broadcast, you didn't expect this to be easy, did you? Wayne or Scott, when was the last time that Aaron Rodgers ran the ball in the end zone for a touchdown? I actually know this one, buddy. It is November 15th when we played against the Jaguars. He went in. He goes on to say, Wayne is going to love this. The playoff picture now stands with this. With the Packers win and the Saints loss, the Packers once again have clinched the number 1 seed in the NFC, which, if we can keep this for the final 3 games of the regular season, the Packers will win the first round bye in the playoffs. This is Stephen Verheeren. Are you going to celebrate the Packers winning the division with a meal from Culver's? Also, it will be interesting to hear if Andre from LA takes me up on my challenge from last week. I don't think he did, but we'll get him one of these times. And now a look at the Packers' next game with the Carolina Panthers. And remember, when the game was originally announced, it was originally at a day and time to be determined. How strange will it be to once again not have the Packers play on Sunday at all for the first time in a long while? Now we will hear the results of the wager of fun between Wayne and Scott and see who gets the point this week. Will Wayne get the points, or will Scott be getting his way closer to tying the points? Big congratulations to the Green Bay Packers on winning the division, but I still have to wonder why the Packers have to take the hard road to 10 victories when other teams have taken the easier route to winning 10 games by losing 2 or less games. Okay, I'm finally going to check out for now, but as always, I look forward to the Packers Fan Podcast. Go Pack Go, Go Pack Go, Go Pack Go, Go Pack Go. Stephen Verheeren.
Well then, those weren't the mightiest Go Pack Goes I've ever heard.
Go Pack Go!
Okay, thank you. Thanks for chiming in. And to his question earlier, I want to celebrate the victory with a meal from Culver's, but California.
You know what's funny is I've actually tried to go to Culver's a couple times the past couple weeks with my stepfather. And I'm not joking, Wayne. Every time I drive by to go there, the line in the drive-thru, which, you know, you can't go into Culver's right now with the pandemic going on, the line for the drive-thru is all the way out to the street. And I love me some Butterburgers, but I'm not gonna wait that long for a Butterburger.
Well, it's possible that they've got this drive-through thing down to a science, and even a long line will go quickly, because
I would hope so.
We kind of have the similar thing here in California. We have In-N-Out Burger, the greatest hamburger there is, even if it's not a Butterburger, and their lines longer than ever. I mean, we even have an In-N-Out Burger here in my hometown of Yucaipa, and the drive-through line is all the way out into the street and partially down to the street, interfering with the drive-through of the neighboring burger place. So sometimes you pull around the corner and you're like, I got to make sure I get in the right line. Okay, people?
Right. I hear you.
Oh, man. It'd be nice to be able to sit in a restaurant again someday. Anyway, back to the emails. Hey, Wayne and Scott. Caleb, Kathy, and Roy Fisher from Green Bay, Wisconsin. So many great things happened in this game, including the Adams touchdown, as well as Aaron Rodgers running it in for a touchdown. Although we did well overall on defense, we still need to work on coverage. That's a Big 10 for Caleb. I almost forgot the 57-yard field goal by Mason Crosby, tying his career-long kick. And for the first time, we must say thank you, Buccaneers, for beating the Vikings and letting the green and gold get the second straight NFC North Championship title. Until next time, this is CCR saying go Pack Go, bleed green and gold till dead and cold.
Just want to confirm, that was a 58-yard field goal by Crosby, wasn't it?
I heard today that it had been revised to be a 57. So,
okay.
I don't know how those things happen, but it was either 57 or 58. It was a long field goal, and thank you, Mason Crosby.
And I feel like that thing would have gone for 65. It was straight down the middle, plenty of distance. Awesome. Jared also wrote in and said, my post-game day routine is listening to the post-game press conferences while I'm at work. That game-clinching field goal by Crosby almost didn't happen. LaFleur said he was ready to send the punting team out there, but paused and asked Mason if he could make it. Crosby confidently said that he could, so LaFleur made the call to give him a shot at the kick. This whole mentality is probably the biggest breath of fresh air from the latter years of the McCarthy era. LaFleur trusts his playmakers to do what they do best in tough situations. I love that, Jared. I'm glad you listened to that. I did not catch that this week, so that is very cool. Also from the Packers Fan Podcast Facebook community group, Peter posted about how, although it's early, that Matt LaFleur has a chance to become one of the greatest NFL coaches ever. I mean, he's off to a great start. Isn't he the first Packer coach to have back-to-back 10 wins the first 2 seasons of his career? That's pretty impressive.
That is very impressive. And right now, he's tied for the record for most wins over the first however many games we've played over the past 2 years so far. So he's off to a great start. If he can keep this up, then, got to throw him in that conversation. And Absolutely. I also saw quite a few great infographics in the Facebook community group, including one about how the Packers are the first NFL team to win 800 football games.
Yeah, we're just breaking all kinds of records this season, man. It's been great.
There's magic in the air, Scott. Magic in the air.
Mm-hmm. We also had some excellent thoughts from you, the Packers Fan Podcast community. Really do appreciate all of the feedback, all of the conversations. It is so much fun interacting with all of you over there. Thanks for all the calls, emails, comments, and support. And if you would like to join that Packers Fan Podcast Facebook community and be a part of that same conversation, head over to packerscommunity.com, especially on game day for our live game discussion thread that our new listener above mentioned, and it is a ton of fun. You will not want to miss it.
And now, your 10-3 NFC North champion Green Bay Packers head home for the Christmas season. First, hosting the 4-9 Carolina Panthers Saturday night, December 19th at 7:15 p.m. Central. All time, the Packers do lead the series, Scott, 10 games to 6.
No ties.
Is not very many games. And since we've only played each other a few times relatively, there isn't that much history between the two of us yet. But the most memorable Packers and Panthers game for me would have to be the NFC Championship game in January 1997 when we won 30-13 to head on to winning the Super Bowl in New Orleans. I mean, is there any other Packers-Panthers game more memorable to you, Scott?
Absolutely not. That was, it's hard to top that. That year, I know it's easy to say it's a very memorable year when we win the Super Bowl, but I was 17 years old, and it was my first time actually seeing the Packers win a Super Bowl live. I had been a diehard Packers fan since I was in 3rd grade. It was so much fun to see them go to win that game and just sit at home on the couch and watch that victory. I will never, ever forget it.
Yeah, it was freezing cold. It was something like 18, 19 degrees. Kevin Green was on the Panthers, and in the pregame warmups, you could hear him saying, "This is what I've dreamt about since I was this tall, is playing in the championship game on the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field." It was unfortunate for him that he lost, but it was fortunate that later he became one of our defensive coaches. So,
yeah,
gotta love Kevin Green, the original long-haired blonde defensive sackmaster. And Saturday night's weather at Lambeau Field is going to be another chilly one, folks. After likely getting some snow earlier in the day, it'll be overcast in the evening with temps just above freezing at kickoffs. So with that, we're going to go back to you, Scott, for the keys to a Packers victory. Scott, are you there?
I'm here. I'm coming to you from the field here and I'm just kidding. I'm right here in my basement.
Almost as cold.
Yeah, not quite as cold. It's outside. It's just about as cold for sure, but here are my keys for the Packers victory. Rick already gave us the one about scoring and taking the lead in the first half, because if history repeats itself, we should win that game easily. But we really need to contain Christian McCaffrey. I know that goes without saying, but if we learned anything from the loss against the Vikings, when we struggled to wrangle Dalvin Cook, it's that we've got to contain that run game. The Pack can't make the same mistake with McCaffrey. Last year, he ran for 1,387 yards, had 15 touchdowns, not to mention 1,005 yards receiving. We have to tighten up those lanes and be aware of his presence because we cannot let him walk over us like we did Dalvin Cook. Secondly, clean up that secondary. Yes, my second key to victory is going to be another defensive request. I'll be direct. Our defense scares the crap out of me right now. With as good as our offense is, we should be winning by a much higher margin than we have been as of late. And a huge way to do that is to regroup and replan whatever is happening with passing defense. We simply can't give up those third and longs anymore. Teddy Bridgewater and the rest of the Panthers may have a poor record, but they're a much bigger force than they seem by their record. Lastly, very simply, just let Aaron Rodgers do his magic. Enough said. And there you have it, Wayne. My keys to a Packers victory.
I love those keys. It's a whole ring full of keys. I smell victory coming our way.
Also, our score predictions last week, much to my chagrin, Wayne has taken another chunk away from me here. I said the Packers were going to win 23-13. That was a differential of 19 points for me because the Packers scored 31, the Lions scored 24. Wayne predicted 27-17, which was a differential of 11, so he gets the lower number, and he extends his lead to 7-4, which means in order for me to tie Wayne by the end of the regular season, I would have to win the last 3 games. I have to call the Panthers game, I have to call the Titans game, and I have to call the Bears game to kind of have a chance here at the end of the season. So fingers crossed for me.
Anything's possible.
What's that?
Anything's possible. We could end up the season with a tie and have to come up with some sort of playoff thing, but we'll see. We just got to keep guessing the scores like, guessing.
Exactly. Well, let's go ahead and see what our predictions are for this week. I'm going to say that the Packers are going to score 27. The Panthers are going to score 21. I think that this one's going to be a little bit closer than the spread says. I think it potentially could even be closer than that. But I'm going to reserve judgment and pass it off to you, Wayne, to see what you think is going to happen.
I think it's going to be a fairly convincing victory. I think we're going to win by 14 points.
Oh, wow.
Packers 30, Panthers 16. So we'll have to see. The weather could become a factor. Who knows? Maybe there will be a missed extra point. I don't know. And, of course, all of this includes any garbage time touchdowns our defense allows near the end of the game. We might be winning 30-0 the entire game and give up 2 touchdowns and 2 two-point conversions. Who knows? Because listener Steven wonders how many garbage time touchdowns our defense is going to allow to the Panthers this week. I would like to say 0, but...
Hey, I'd rather be winning at halftime by a lot and have to defend that and get away with the garbage time touchdowns than trying to struggle back to get a win in the fourth quarter.
There's that. The NFC North, we are the champs, 10-3. The Vikings, 6-7. Bears, 6-7. Lions, 5-8. Or as Charlie said, with a great meme, basically the other 3 teams in our division are like NFC East caliber teams. Ouch.
Oh, ouch, man. But hey, that Washington football team pulled out some magic.
Oh, I was
last week,
very happy to see them beat the, the 49ers?
It was the Steelers.
Well, and then yesterday, the 49ers.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, you're right. Speaking of surprising happenings in the NFL, I know everybody loves Patrick Mahomes. I do kind of love him, but he set a pretty interesting record this weekend. He tied an NFL record for the longest sack in history. 23 years ago is the last time we had this happen, but he was sacked for 30 yards in his game against the Dolphins.
I missed this. I mean, he lost 30 yards on the play?
Yep, he tried to scramble, and he scrambled straight backwards and got chased and was tackled about the 5-yard line. The last time that happened was in 1997. Scott Gallion of the New York Giants was sacked for 30 yards by the Cardinals back there. So all kinds of fun, interesting records happening this week. Mahomes also threw 2 interceptions, which doubled his interceptions for the season so far. He had a pretty rough start to that game, but I know everyone's calling him the GOAT this year. But numbers, baby, numbers.
Very interesting. Also interesting, the Steelers, after we're talking about maybe the Packers will play the undefeated Steelers in the Super Bowl, they lose again. The Buffalo Bills rolled all over them, and that was a fun game to watch. I also admit to being surprised at how easily the Rams appeared to have beaten the Patriots because, they were kind of on a roll, and now all of a sudden the Patriots are like the wheels have come off. So hopefully the wheels have come off with the Buccaneers, Tom Brady's new team as well. We'll have to wait and see. But lately, other than football, I've been enjoying listening to some wonderful Christmas music, watching some Christmas TV specials and movies and things like that. So, Scott, have you watched Die Hard yet to kick off the Christmas movie season?
Don't get me started, man. You know how I stand on Die Hard being a Christmas movie. It's not a Christmas movie. Move on. But I do have a recommendation that I actually made to you in terms of Christmas albums, Wayne. One of my favorite artists of all time, his name is Jamie Cullum, just released a Christmas album that I highly, highly recommend. If you haven't checked it out, if you're a fan of big band or jazz music, I know that sounds kind of crazy, big band and jazz doing a Christmas album, but I'm telling you, it's awesome. The album is called The Piano Man at Christmas. It's all original music. It's good stuff. I highly recommend it.
I took your recommendation, added that to my Christmas 2020 playlist, and enjoyed listening to that while we were driving around town getting things done yesterday.
Very cool.
So thank you.
Also, if you love video games as much as I do, I have another podcast called The Gaming Outsider where we chat about my favorite hobby each week. Yes, there is something I love more than football, believe it or not. This week, we're talking about games that are on our Christmas wish lists, as well as some of our favorite memories of giving and receiving gifts during the holidays. So be sure to check that out. We're also sharing our impressions of new games that we've been playing, including the hotly anticipated Cyberpunk 2077, arguably the biggest release of the entire year, Wayne. Also, I've been playing a little indie game called The Shady Part of Me. It's a really clever little puzzler. If you would like to check that out, please do so over at our website, thegamingoutsider.com, or wherever you listen to this particular podcast. We are on the same locations.
I wouldn't be surprised if Aaron Rodgers is the MVP this season, but we have our own MVPs for the podcast because we have the value for value model here at the Packers Fan Podcast. If your budget allows for it, you can invest in whatever you feel is equal to your value of the podcast. You can even get cool Packers Fan Podcast swag at some of the higher levels. Just check out the details at patreon.com/Packers Fan Podcast. So, thank you to listener Bryant for all of your Patreon support at the legendary Willie Wood $24 monthly level. This would even make Vince Lombardi proud. Go Pack Go. Also, thank you for your service. Go Pack Goes for the Texas-only Green Bay Packers fanatics and their support of the show at the AR12 monthly level. Thank you very much, and Go Pack Go.
Thanks also to our Favre-tastic, you really made me say that, Wayne, $4 Patreon supporters. Go Pack Goes going out to Andre in LA, Lawrence Harvey, and Jeff Summerfield. Also, Go Pack Go shoutouts to these awesome $1 monthly supporters, Beth Mentink, Joe Christensen, Matt Haig, Hank Davis from the TPE Network of Podcasts, and Remy LaVictoire. Thank you all for the support, financial and otherwise. As a reminder, we are the Unofficial Packers Fan Podcast, not yet affiliated with the NFL or the Green Bay Packers, but please remember to have our voicemail feedback hotline number of 920-3PACK-GO programmed into your phones and ready to share everything you loved about Saturday's special game.
Yes, and even though the game is Saturday night, you do have a deadline till Sunday night, but why wait? Just get it in, because with the holidays coming up, the podcast recording schedule could be flexible. We'll have to wait and see. So the sooner we beat the Panthers, the sooner you can call us, and we'll save it for when we do record the show. And it is true, you can follow us on Twitter at Packers Fan Pod. You can follow Scott at GoCastScott, and you can follow me at Wayne Henderson. And as is tradition for their years of supporting the podcast at the AR12 Patreon level, it's your Texas-only Green Bay Packers fanatics.
This is Dawn down here in Texas, a.k.a. Granny Cheese.
Hi, I'm James.
Hi, I'm Kim.
Hi, I'm Melissa.
Hi, I'm Susan.
Hi, I'm Carrie.
Hi, I'm Lisa Montgomery, and we want to say,
Go Pack Go!